person waiting and watching. That was quick.
I bet you that was N Raven.
I was worried there might be some. It's always kind of a trick getting things set up the first time, and technical issues sometimes. I don't know why it's mobile only. You know why it doesn't let the link do something else.
Well, it's something with YouTube. Yeah, that they seem to set it up for that. I guess I don't know. More likely to do shorts that way or something, maybe. I know they love that shit.
Right. So what setup do you just have like a camera hooked to a laptop to record your stuff?
Okay, hang on a second here. I gotta mute myself here. Yeah. Hang on a second here. Gotta mute myself. There we go. Much better. So I didn't realize okay, now I see what you mean by it's sideways.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Wonder if I can do anything about that. That is a good question. Because that's gonna be a bit of a problem, I think. Difficulties if I go like the difficulties if I go like this, the stand I have tends to flop. So let's see if I can come up with something here. And I do not know.
I mean, it's a good shot of your artwork and that incredible page and that panel on that top above. It looks fantastic.
Oh, thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Rob Liefeld would be proud.
There's so many lines, and so many of them are necessary.
They are, but it works somehow.
Do I have something I can use here? Because if I just let it go, it's just going to flop on me.
See, Chuck Gibson's here, and he wants to see a close-up of that page up top, too. I'm telling you, that's
here, I'll put it down here while I'm trying to figure something out. Hey, Chuck, how you doing? There. It might be me holding my phone the whole time while I just like shuttle pages in and out. Let's see. Yeah, that's not going to work. Would that help at all? Not really, because that doesn't help with the phone itself.
Chuck just said you got a new subscriber.
Hey, good to hear it, man.
Right? I'm telling you. I mean,
and Chuck in particular, I've seen your conversations a little bit. Bye. Pretty sure if I go like this, it's gonna just blind everybody. Maybe if I turn that off entirely. Shit's sake. Trying to rig up.
Yeah.
Here. It's Okay. Okay, I'm gonna try and move this completely here. Okay. I'm gonna be extremely disorienting for a little while. Pay no mind. Now, get this in here. Gotta crush my phone probably. All right, just black. Black it is.
What's up, Jai Deep? Someone saying, okay, comics.
Hey, okay. I'm here for real. This is regular destruction you're hearing, not unnatural destruction. Not emergency destruction. This is what I needed today, was to sweat more.
Is it? Are you up in Canada, right? Am I?
Yeah. I'm in BC, and we're in one of the more temperate areas, maybe like one of the most temperate areas, really. But it's still hit like close to 30 today, which probably doesn't mean a whole lot to you, but
I was like 30.
30 is like 84, 85.
Oh my God, it's like 100 right here, right now.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, we're not used to 30, so
Right.
a bunch of wusses about it, and nobody out here has AC.
Oh, that would suck.
Yeah. I guess if I go like that. Whoa. We're just building suspense here.
I know I can't wait.
Okay, so we need, okay. And now you need to that. If I do that, is it going to flop down? It does not. Okay. What's a start? Yeah.
Chuck says you get up north like that and 80 degrees feels like triple digits with the humidity.
Yeah, and I mean, where I am, I'm right by the coast, so we get a bit more extra. Right. I'm not twisting this the right way. Good to know. Okay. Would have liked to have done this without the nausea.
Oh, everyone will survive.
It is what it is.
Right?
They usually take a while to pile in, right?
Sometimes. We got 8 in there right now.
Okay, you. Oh, really? Can you get over here? All right. If I remove this, how much of this are we seeing? Sorry, just seeing OK's comment here.
Yeah, he went black and you're never coming back.
Yeah. A little bit close. Just a little bit. A little bit higher.
I know it's always a trick getting things lined up exactly the way you want it.
Yeah. Oh shit! There's my floor. Nobody need to see that. Okay. I mean, not too bad. That's about right. Now, can I see under my phone to draw?
That is always the trick. Yeah, it's like right here, right in the way. So you have to learn to like off kilter, just a little bit. It's not the funnest thing, but
yeah, I'm gonna try because I got my phone plugged in for charge, and it's kind of getting in the way a bit more. So I think we're gonna try it without it for now.
Yeah.
All right. I might be about ready. How far into are we? Like 10 minutes?
Basically, it's fine. It will work.
All right. Okay. So how you been, man?
I am good outside of the horrible heat.
Yep.
Just sucks the life out of everything, but surviving. How are you doing?
Not too bad. Not at work, so I'm doing better.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I remember several months ago, somebody like left a comment on one of my videos that said something to the effect of the ultimate team up would be Rob Norton and Blood Force Mitch, And I was like, who are you talking? What are you talking about? And that's how I kind
The
of found
ultimate, yeah. I was gonna put. Oh shit! I was gonna put out a link that was like, "This is the Marvel versus DC of mid-tier comic reviewers." You
right,
know?
right. So several months later, I guess we've wheeled it into reality.
Now let me put up that link now. Actually, there's that one. Put it up in the Discord. All right, I think we're good. I just got to find my way back to your screen. There we go. All right. What the fuck am I drawing now?
Yeah, now what am I working on? You working on
Yeah.
a cover, a pinup?
This is my fourth go at a cover for issue 3 of Blood Force.
Right.
Um, two of them were intended to be variants, so it's not quite as dire as it sounds. But the one I had in mind, after sitting on it for a couple of months, probably, um, decided, yeah, it's not really where I want it to be.
I get
So
that. Yeah.
yeah, decided to do something a bit more covery, like more typical cover.
Right. So I know we have a lot of crossover people, but for anybody who's here who doesn't know what is your book is working on, I mean, I kind of gathered, the basics, but like, tell us the basic premise, or how,
Sure.
whatever you'd like to call it, or how would you like to,
Yeah, you bet, man. Well, Blood Force is basically Image Comics if the characters were dumber. Um,
sold.
or I don't know if the creators realized how maybe that should be closer to the mark. Um, yeah, so this is it's a satire, kind of parody kind of thing, but with a big focus on trying to get the artwork. I mean, as close as I can get it to early '90s image quality.
Sure.
So,
I mean,
which means,
there's a big market for that. People are interested.
well, I mean, it's tough to find, right?
Oh
At
yeah.
least these days.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, no, and I mean, it's shit. I tried doing like, um, I don't know, like semi-realistic type of style and everything, and I was like okay at it, but I hated drawing it. So
It's not fun, right?
no, and then I started drawing this stuff as like a joke. It's like this is so much better.
Just run with it.
Oh yeah,
Well, I was assuming, but like the name, it's like the last, like it's like taking the last word of X Force and the last word of Youngblood. Like,
yeah.
was that the?
Not specifically. It was like I took a little while trying to come up with a name for it. I kind of kept coming back because this was like my default. It's like okay, so it's like it kept coming back to like something like Blood Force, but not that stupid. And then eventually it's like, well, why not that stupid though?
It's like perfect. That would be a '90s comic. I can see myself being back in the day, 15 years old, and seeing an ad for Blood Force. I'd be like, "Yep, that would be what would be coming out. Let's see
Yeah.
what that's all about."
And I got to say, the blood puns have been a blessing. Uh,
Yeah,
I'm not usually a pun guy, but I've been able to work some good ones in. As long as I can make fun of the comic, fun of myself while I'm doing it, then yeah, I'm actually coming up with some decent ones.
that's awesome.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Oh man. Yeah, and I've seen the stuff you've been working on, and kind of gathered what I could from what it is. I could tell what you're doing, and it kind of like it makes me like it sounds like a really fun project. Like, oh, that sounds like a really fun thing to be doing.
Yeah, I'm having a good time doing it. I haven't worked this much on anything comic related since I was like 19 or something. You know,
Yeah.
it's I think I've tried every once in a while. I'll go for like a year maybe, and maybe get like I don't know a third of an issue done.
Right.
And but like I've got 3 full issues done on this thing and still going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you find a
So
thing you love to do, it just works and it clicks.
It seems like it. I mean, yeah, I'd heard that before. I just never experienced it. I think.
Right. Yeah.
Hang on a second. I'll be tap here. All right. So how about you? I get the impression your thing you've been working on for quite some time.
Yeah. Real quick, Chuck is asking, Chuck Gibson. He's like, wasn't one of the Lightning comic books called Blood Force? Maybe it was Blood Fire. I'm pretty sure it's Blood Fire.
I hope so. I don't think I saw anything online for Blood
Yeah.
Force specifically.
I think I did a review of one of those issues, and it was just awful. Like not awful, but like awful.
That's a bit of a shame. That's a I like that name. That's all right.
Yeah. Yeah, this I know so many people ask me like, why in the hell are you doing this Masters of the Universe fan comic? Like you can't do anything with it. And I'm like, I know. I understand. I get it. But it was just
The
I
heart
had this
wants what the heart wants.
well, that's kind of it. That's exactly right. I come up with the concept years ago, and I kept just mulling it around in my head, and I kept coming up with what I thought was an interesting idea. And I've
Yeah.
kind of come to learn, like, well, if you're going to make a thing, you better be the biggest advocate of it, because if you don't give a crap about it, why would anybody else? And I kept coming back to this, like in my head, I'm like, this would be cool, and this would be neat, and this would be neat. And so I finally decided to like just make it, just start. And I took it upon myself to like, I thought of it as like training ground. I'm like, I'm going to use the nicest paper, the nicest pencils and inks, and do the best work I can do, and just start making it. And then it's just training, it's just practice rather than sketching in a sketchbook. I'm just drawing an
Yeah.
actual comic, and the story
Getting
kept
your reps
going,
in. Yeah.
going in my head. Um, and I got to a point where I'm like, all right, I've done 24 pages, and then I've done another 24 pages, and then my brother chipped in and helped me do a section of the first volume, because I'm working on volume 6, and I've got 5 others.
Oh my God. Okay.
And they're all 80 pages minimum. The last one was 120. This one's
All right.
at least that big. So I just so people are like, why are you doing this? And I'm like, it's simply because I've come up with a thing that I think is interesting. And I've said this before, I feel like anybody who makes comics, we're probably always, as far as I know, we're always bursting with ideas. Like you're
Right.
always ideas, these thoughts, these stories, these things. And how many comic concepts for me, and like I know my younger brother is the same way, and I've known a couple other buddies, like I've always had these other ideas, these other characters, these interesting ideas, but they always go unrealized. So I was just like, I am going to make one of these happen, and I just decided to do this one.
This was the one. Okay.
It's not going to be something that's just going to sit in the recesses of my mind, never seen, never brought to life. Whether
Right.
or not I can own it or not, I kind of don't care. I wanted to tell it, and it's been quite the investment of time, but I'm so happy to have it. Like, let me grab right here.
Yeah, man.
Um, like, this is, I print up copies of it. So I've got this pile of work.
Yeah.
There's
Man.
volume 1, there's 2, that's 3, and then we got book 4, and then 5.
Great covers too.
Little homage to a Mark Silvestri there, and
Oh yeah.
so
Okay.
I just wanted to make it, and now that I'm there, I'm so close to having like everything kind of done and have this like giant story. I can just look at myself and like I told a story the way I wanted to, for better or worse. I'm not any kind of pro, right? I'm just a guy doing my thing, but I made it, and it's done, and people can read it, and I'm kind of I hesitate to use the word proud of it because I don't want to sound like.
Well, no, I mean you can. Yeah, I that's a shit ton of work, man. I'd say that's the word. Yeah.
I mean, it's not perfect by no means, but I'm never going to be accused of being the best artist, but I made a story people can read, and that's what inspires me to keep going. And
Yeah.
it just feels like you're probably kind of the same way. Like you're making a thing that you want to do, and you're inspired to make it.
Yeah, I'd say that's about right. Yeah, this is the only thing I could do, I think. So it's like if this is the thing I can do, might as well do it. Didn't have anything else I was doing, so.
Yeah, it's so yeah, that's what I am. Why I'm doing what I'm doing here, and then the future will be something that's my own thing, and or I got plans to work with other people.
Yeah.
But this thing, I'm just like I gotta finish
So it
it.
is coming to like you are getting close to the end of it then.
I am now drawing. I I use this uh like I just got done drawing the equivalent of like the end battle of Return of the Jedi. Like at the end of
Oh,
the
okay.
third
So this
movie,
is are we
yeah, I
back in
got
the Ewok village here then?
yeah, kind of. It's the character wrap up. It's more of like a Lord of the
Yeah.
Rings wrap up where it doesn't just like have a quick wrap up. Everyone looks at each other and like, oh, we made it, and then roll credits. It's like this person goes here, this person goes here, this person goes here, because I want to wrap it up and you know have a
Yeah.
finality to everything.
Well, how long
So,
have you been working on this?
so I started it years ago,
Yeah.
but then I got connected with some very independent publisher people, and I got to do some work with them. So I put this thing aside to work with them to focus only on that. So I'd had it sit aside for a year or two, and then I'd work on it a little, and then I'd set it aside for another year or so. But
Yeah.
ever since about 2019, I got divorced and I moved out on my own, and I have done nothing but this ever since then. And so I've been putting out one volume a year since I've started it. So I am. That's why I'm. It's finally coming to an end. So I've been working on it for a long time.
Well, that makes sense then if you're going for the, the extended ending because, you want to make after this kind of investment, you want to make sure that you don't leave any loose ends, right?
Yeah. I like this Chuck Gibson saying comics with flaws that get made beat comics that are perfect that don't get made.
That's the thing.
Yeah, that's what I agree with. Completely. I saw this. There's this page on Facebook that I follow, and some guy posted up like 20 or 30 pages of this book that he drew that was not bad, but not great, but
Yeah.
not bad. And he's like, go ahead and tell me what you think, guys. Beat me up. And I was like, dude, you made the thing. Like, you invested the time and you produced a volume of work that we can read. And it looks kind of good. Like, there's a excitement and energy that you've got. And a
Mm.
bunch of people have chimed in, like, yeah, you're right. Like, you've actually made the thing. And, even if it's not the greatest artwork, it kind of doesn't matter. It's still like, let me read what you made. It's kind of exciting. It's fun.
Yeah. No, for sure. I mean, it's hell. I think that's more than what most of us have done. I
Right.
mean, yourself not included, of course, obviously, but
And I mention this on my channel often. I'm like, I've just known so many guys throughout my life, and seeing people online on forums and websites that talk about the thing they're gonna do.
yeah.
I've got this thing.
Once I
I
get this and this and this set,
Yeah, yeah. I've got 100 issue arc planned out. It's gonna be epic. I'm like, okay, show me one page. Well,
yeah.
yeah, I know. Okay, yeah. Come back to me
Don't
when you
ask me how many
made it.
issues Blood Force is supposed to end up as.
Hey, you got 3 books done, right? Like 3 actual like drawings?
Yeah, yeah,
Or
beginning to end. Now I just gotta like letter them and shit. But yeah,
yeah,
no, the actual art is done, the writing's done. So that's hey, way more than I thought this would ever turn into, to be honest.
yeah. Yeah, I can't. I'm anxious to read it. You know what I mean? Because I've seen the work that you put into it. I'm like, I'm interested. And then your little pitch that you just gave us here, I'm like, I sold. I am so sold. So
Who doesn't love that elevator pitch, right?
right? I'm no good at it. I have no idea how to do an elevator pitch. I
No,
don't.
me either. I'm shit at them, except for like I that one isn't too bad. But see here.
Chuck says people that are willing to actually do it are more rare than people realize, and that's kind of what I've kind of getting at. And
Yeah,
so it's like the one thing I can say that I can like look at myself and be like, well, again, for better or worse, I made it, and you can read it, and that's you. You know what I mean? That's why I'm like, this
yeah,
guy, he's making a book. Like this is a passion. The passion is there. So
yeah. Well, it's interesting because a long time I think I wasn't one of those guys, and then just I don't know, just hearing some uh not podcast stuff, but some videos talking about making your own comic. And one guy was just like, if you want to do a comic, what you should do is do a comic because that puts you ahead of like 95% of the pack.
yeah,
And it's like, yeah, actually, yeah, that's not a bad idea then.
yeah, I agree. I've heard like I remember listening to the cartoonist kayfabe guys, and they would talk how they often get approached at conventions and stuff, and people are hitting them up like, how do you get copyrights? How do you do
Yeah.
this? And they're like, where's the book? Oh, well, I
Yep.
haven't started it yet. And they're like, yeah, just
Doesn't
okay.
matter then.
Yeah, I don't care. Make the thing, then we'll talk.
Yep.
It's
Yeah, no, you always get hung up on the little details. It's like, man, those details go on forever, and in the meantime, you've got no pages.
Yeah, I've got one of my best friends from high school. He's an incredible artist. But for as long as I've known him, because we graduated in '95, he's always talked about, I'm going to do this. And then he produced a couple pages. Then he's like, it's not good enough. I need to rework it. And then
Yeah.
page or two. And then he's like, it's not good enough. I got to redo it. I got to rethink it. I'm like, you're not getting anywhere. Just make it. And even if it's full of flaws, it's probably better than you think. It doesn't have to be perfect. And so he's
Yeah.
like paralyzed by the thought of um,
Yeah. Well, like
perceived.
looking back on it and think, yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, where mine is now, issue one looks very different from issue four because I mean it's a couple of years worth of difference in there too because I'm
Sure.
not producing at not a professional rate or anything, and I it's there's always that temptation to go back and fix something,
Oh
but I
yeah.
don't. But like I know if I did that, like where would I stop? You know?
I'm so glad you say that because I go back and I look at the first 24 pages of the part one that I did, which is at this point maybe 15 years old. And there's some
Right.
stuff that I'm like, that's not too bad. But there's other
Yeah.
stuff I'm like, oh wow, that sucks. And so before I actually printed up copies of book one, I did redraw 3 or 4 pages at the very beginning of the first volume
Yeah.
because I'm like, I can't let these slide. But then I had to do, like you were saying, I could conceivably redraw this whole thing if I let myself go crazy. I'm like, just it's. I hate to say it, make it sound like I'm compromising. It's good enough, which some people might take as bad. But I'm like, if you get into that mindset, like you were saying, you'll never move forward because you're constantly reworking.
Well, I think there's because you'll never hear anybody say like don't do your best, like don't produce the very best thing you can.
Sure.
It's always like no, you always have to be running at 110% efficiency if you can do it. And it's like okay, but like the problem is a certain mindset will use that as an excuse to just stay stagnant.
Yeah.
Um, I know that's my mindset, and so I just can't let myself get there.
Yes.
Yeah.
I keep referring back to an interview I saw with Mark Silvestri one time, and he said something to the effect of, young artists seem to I can't remember exactly how he put it, but it was something to the effect of making it seem like young artists think that every panel, every tiny little box has to be flawlessly perfect and they
Mm-hmm.
never move forward. He's like, this little panel with this guy looking out the window could be a simple drawing. Just get it done and move on, you
Yep.
know. And I'm super paraphrasing, but the concept stuck with me. It's like everything doesn't have to be flawless. So then I started looking at books that I've enjoyed. I'm like, oh, if you look, you can see where artists take a shortcut. But to us, it
Oh
still
yeah,
looks great. Even though the artist drawing it probably feels like it's the most substandard thing they've ever done. But to us,
could be. You know
it's
what?
great.
Making the videos has actually, I think, helped me in that way too, because you see how often the pros would take a shortcut, or like not put in the best effort, or like they're going super fast and they don't have time to really pile on the rendering or something.
Right.
And so like you go, okay, well, like these are the guys who, at least at the time, were the best of the best. And they, because they're on a schedule, they're not trying to create their masterpiece every time they put pen to paper.
Right.
And it's like, if he doesn't have to do that, why the fuck do I think I have to do that?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's always going to be that page or that panel that just speaks to you, and you're just like, "Oh, I'm gonna render the hell out of this. It's gonna be great." And then, like later on down the page, you're like, "Okay, this one I'm just gonna kind of black out, and put a wisp of smoke in front of them, and move on.
Yep.
I gotta move forward."
Yeah. Unfortunately, we started a running gag on my channel where I don't know, greats are like just the new hotness. Just the best thing you can put on a page. And I did, I had a couple of pages where I had to put in some greats, where like on alien ships and stuff. And now it's like, and I don't know, I think as part of the bit, it's like I went all out on those greats. And now I kind of feel like I have to every time I do. And holy shit, do those pages take a while?
I think I've seen at least one of those pages. I remember a panel you were doing with those like metal gratings under them. I'm like, they came out great, but I was thinking, what a pain in the butt.
It's yeah. I mean, I put out one of the little speed video things I do today that had a lot of that going on, and I just watched it again. It's like, holy shit, dude.
Yeah.
At least it's not the whole book or anything, but every once in a while, it's like, oh shit, it's gonna be a great day, and that's not a good thing.
Yeah, that's one of those things where like digital assistants would be helpful because why do you
Or if you
need
get like
to
clone or something, yeah,
yeah, instead of just like drawing them out by hand. I mean,
yeah.
what a tedious, you know, what a tedious thing.
Oh well,
Yeah.
I didn't choose this life. This life chose me.
Right. And then, like you said, once you do it, you're like, now I got to do it again because I got to draw them in that damn panel again.
Well, now I set a standard, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Shit, now I'm kind of wishing I left a bit more of this unrendered. Hmm.
So I'm sorry, you're working on book 4?
Yeah. Um, I'm I'm like 11 pages into book 4, so that's doing all right. This is should not be slanted like that, but okay. All right, we'll do that. This is a cover for issue 3, though.
Is it just in kind of in your mind, just kind of an ongoing thing, or do you have like a kind of like an end to a story, and then you're going to go and print them or make
Well,
them available or letter them or?
I'm trying to letter them on the fly. It's just I don't know. I take so long on my videos. It's tough to get the time for it. But I've got a first arc set up at least.
Right.
And that's the first 5 or potentially 6 issues, depending on how the script for the next issue goes, really. And then after that, I've got like little mini arcs, or sometimes not so many, set up along the way, and I've got a bunch of those. I basically want to hit like every cheesy comics trope I can along the way, I think.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
That's the thing. I think it'll be a lot of fun.
I mean, the idea of fun. I mean, I guess I can't be too critical of modern comics because I don't read almost any of them, so I don't know how much of an opinion I'm going to allow myself to have. But anytime I pick
Mm.
up something, I'm just like, these aren't characters I recognize anymore because that's corporate characters. They always, they're not going to change too much, but then they're trying to do something different with them. So they're not the versions of them that I knew. Like I was just looking at a cover to a new book of X-Men coming out. And I'm like, there's nothing on these that looks familiar or anything I want to watch. So
No.
I'm always like, well, where's something different that I can just be super excited about? Something new, something fun, something exciting, and
Yeah,
and
there's all. I mean, there's all sorts of stuff out there. It's just finding it. I think. Yeah.
yeah. And my channel has been the road to catching a wind of several different things that I would have never known of otherwise. I'm like, oh, this is okay. This is
Hmm.
fun. This is neat.
Yeah, I think I've had a little bit of that myself. Yeah. That and yeah, some of the people I met on Instagram because of the channel. Yeah. It's an interesting crowd when you get involved with it.
Right? Are you using do you use microns?
Yeah, I mix between microns and brush pens usually.
Right.
Yeah, I like the Tombow Funosukes. Um, what was it? I don't remember when I even started picking them up, but oh no, that was it. Because one of the other guys I've seen, the guys who do Turbo Pit Fighter. I don't know if you've ever seen their. They do live streams as well, and I remember I happened in on one of them, and one guy was inking, and it's like those lines are amazing. What is your pen like? Because if I know what your pen is, then obviously I can get those same lines, right?
In theory.
You know, like potentially. You're not
Right.
100% wrong, but yeah. So tried this out and kind of loved it, and yeah, I got myself a whole bunch of them. So I'm stacked for the year, I think.
Are they disposable? Like
Yeah, no, they're
ones
not
you get?
refillable. I do have one that is refillable, which is this Pentel thing here.
Right. Yeah.
Seems all right. Very wet though. I'm just finding that out. It's my first time using it, really.
Oh, Chuck Gibson. He's saying that's what he's using, the Tombow, and he's been doing a lot of like inking by hand on his channel, and
Oh, you okay?
he gets some really nice lines. I mean, he's professional inker, so of course he does.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, no, I thought you were Chuck was sticking mostly with the digital stuff these days. So it's like I'll stop in every once in a while, and if it looks like digital, it's like okay, I don't even know what I'm looking at, and I gotta bounce. But yeah, no, the Tombow is a shit ton of fun, particularly if like I don't know, I don't have the patience for brushes. Like they seem like they require a shit ton of maintenance, and I'm not I can't handle it.
they do, and so my solution to that is I just buy packs of cheap shit, and so I just let them go until they burn out, and I just toss
Right,
them, get another one, rather than buying a expensive good one because I know I won't take care of it the way I'm supposed to. I'm not saying
right.
that I'm proud of it, but I just know who I know what I do, and so
Yep.
I find these packs of these brushes that'll hold a decent point for a decent amount of time, and I'm like, all right, I'll just use that. And then once they kind of stop holding their point, they don't snap back, and then they move on to their secondary life as like a brush to do textures and stuff
Yeah,
like that, which is very
fills and stuff.
yeah. And I flip back and forth between I like using the classic Hunt 102. I
Oh
I
yeah,
keep I keep those. They're tricky, but there's just stuff that I really like getting out of it. And there's a part of me that's like stubborn. Like I want to learn how to get some of these snaps that some of those old guys would get. And
yeah.
on occasion, I can kind of pull a thing out of it. But then I'm like, I don't have the energy and patience to use one of the Hunt 102 today. So it's back to the pit pens and the microns, and
Yeah, I'd love to be a 102 and brush guy. Again, it's just I would need to set aside some time to like just work out kinks before I got them into the book, I would say, or like something where it's going to be seen by other people even. And I never have that kind of time where, or like if I had that kind of time, I would have to do something for the channel, right?
Right. You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
know. The brush pens seem like a nice kind of in between spot.
Yeah. Yeah. I haven't ran into one that is like my super favorite. The Pentel one is pretty good, but sometimes the ink isn't flowing out of it quite the way I want. The brush is a little bit more flimsy than I like sometimes, but it works
Right.
really well in some other ways. So it's another um, it's just another tool to have sitting right next to me, and depending on what I want to do, I'll
Yeah.
use that one or something else. So got an
Well,
arsenal.
I definitely recommend trying out the Tombos anyway. They're fun to play around with.
Yeah, I've
And
heard good stuff. So
and I'm getting to a point now where like I can kind of control the line weights I'm getting out of it, and it's more fun as it goes.
yeah, that's awesome. I'll
Let's
have
see
to.
here. Okay, we got to get these fucking sticks done, I think.
Yeah, man.
Maybe
You've got a at least, well, you've got more than one, but I'm definitely one of these guys that like am anxious to read your book. So
yeah, I gotta just stop dicking around. I think it's always like, well, there's one more video to make. Oh, there's one more. The page is coming up, and I gotta prep something probably. And
yeah,
it's like, okay, no, you know what you got to do is you got to set aside like just an hour a night to do lettering, and then it will get everything done eventually.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. You probably know. I've said before to some people, I'm like doing the channel. I started it just doing it for the hell of it, just for fun. But then
yeah,
it kind of caught on and kind of got going. And like, well, yeah, people are paying attention. So now I don't need to do it, but I kind of need to do it because it's important to me.
yes,
But then it starts feeling like a second job.
a little bit. Yeah, I mean, I honestly I get times when I'm like, I really don't want to today. Like
Yes,
I kind of just want to chill and like play some fucking video games or something. And it's
right.
like, okay, and it's like, okay, but what happens if like you just fall behind and like, what happens if I don't put a video out today? It's like, well, then you're gonna start losing members of the community and shit eventually if you let that kind of shit happen. I really like the community.
Agreed. Yeah.
Yeah.
And a little bit for me has been like I didn't intend to start doing this, but I just started putting one out every day.
Yeah.
And now I'm kind of like, I haven't missed one. I don't want to break that.
Yeah. You
It's a
don't want to
little
break
bit
your
of like,
streak.
yeah, I've been going. And so I was going to like go for a year and then maybe slow down. But then it got monetized. I'm like, well, if I slow down, I'm going to start
You're losing out on
losing.
cats now then.
Yeah. So I'm like, oh, son of a bitch. I've even been like straight up, like I get in bed, right? I'm
Yep.
going to sleep and I lie there. I'm like, I didn't record anything for tomorrow. Son of a, so I get up and I go digging through my stuff and find something
Oh no way.
very familiar with, so I don't have to like sit here and like read it and refamiliar. I'm like, oh, I remember this issue of Wildcats. I can talk about this one easy. Let's go. And I just
Yep.
hurried something together. I'm like, oh, this sucks. So my best case scenario is I try to take a weekend, like a Sunday,
Yep.
and record 5 or 6 in a row, and then so then
Yeah,
I can
just burn
worry
through
about
them.
it for the rest of the week. But that doesn't always work out that way.
No, I usually go, okay, because I figure out I think that I can on a weekend day I can probably record 3 videos and maybe edit one. Because I can't just go like you do, unfortunately. Once I found out, like once I started editing, now I'm like a mess when I talk. It takes forever. But yeah, so like I could theoretically get I think 3 issues recorded and one done and one edited. Um I just don't a lot of the time.
Yeah.
It, like I kind of take forever on the weekends, and by the end of it, it's like, well, I'm a little bit ahead of where I was, but not nearly as much as I was hoping for.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then fitting the job in between everything, and I've got kids that I get, split time with their mom, and so I try to like not ignore them, but they know that they think it's pretty neat that Daddy's got a YouTube channel. Like, Daddy, you're a YouTuber. I'm like, I
Yep.
mean, yes, I am.
Yeah. With
But
a not inconsequential subscriber base.
I no one's shocked more than me. I don't know how this has happened. I found that the live streams for me have produced the most forward kind of subscriber count than anything else that I do.
Yeah.
I remember one time I got like almost like 70 in one 2 hour shot.
Yeah,
I
that's
didn't
pretty
do
crazy.
anything except sit down and draw. And my partner Jessica, who does these with me on occasion,
Yeah.
she might have been there or not. But I'm like, how the hell did that happen? I don't get it. I'm not doing anything. I'm just sitting here drawing and talking. But
Yep.
for some reason, it tends to just the live streams tend to you know get a lot of eyes, and so
Yeah.
I don't know. I have no idea.
I mean, I'm at this point, like you can't question it. It's just like, okay, this is just how it is. I got to keep doing this shit.
And that's part of it too. I'm like, okay, I don't know how it's working or why it's working, but it is. And I was talking to another friend I had about a month and a half ago, because I've kind of been like, "Oh, it'd be neat if one of my videos caught on in a big way
Yeah.
somehow, And I'm like, well, I had one. I did the Frank Cho art book,
Uh-huh.
and it crossed 52,000 views.
Holy shit.
And
Last I saw it was at like 10K, I think.
yeah, oh yeah, it just keeps going. But guess what? Because there's nude female figures in it, only people with YouTube Premium get to count
Yep.
ad revenue. So it's made me like $7.
Yep.
And I'm like, you've got it. Like, I've just been waiting for just one to like really pop off. The closest one to that was the one where I talked about when Ed Piskor,
Right.
passed away, and that got like 10,000 views, and it made me like $70. So I'm like, well, what would 52,000 views be like? Well, I won't know, because we can't have drawings of boobies
Yeah.
of people, so it just irks me, and I should just let it go. But I'm just like, what? I finally won. Just finally caught on.
No. I mean, if you want to start getting into the culture war stuff, there's big views in that.
Yeah, I guess I could. You're right.
I'm good personally.
Yeah, that. No, I like the idea because there's so much divisiveness going on. I like the idea of a place where people can come together. I don't care what a person's personal interests are. Like, we're just here to let's talk about stuff that we enjoy, art,
Yep.
fun, creativity, and let's just talk about this because there's plenty of nonsense going on. Let's just do this.
Yep. No, I
And
don't disagree.
yeah, and it's created like a group of people that I've met that, you know, as much as you can call someone a friend that, you've never met before and you only talk to online, but there's several people that I've got to know that I think of them as like friends. I'm like,
Yep.
oh, there's Mark, there's Gayton, there's Dan Goodwin, there's Chuck Gibson, who we talk quite often because we're working together, and you better be communicating.
Mm-hmm.
So I've made connections, and I'm like, well, this is awesome, you know.
Yep.
So
Like probably a lot more than you would have thought you would have got out of it, right?
oh, there's no way. If you would have told me when I started this, hey, in a year and 4 months you'd be here and doing this and knowing these people, and
Yep.
like, I had a guy buy some of my original artwork for way more than I would have ever dared to ask.
Yep.
And I was like, wait, what? How, what? He's like, nope, I want it. And so I quoted him way low, and he's like, that's way too little. I'll pay you this. I'm like, shut up. Are you serious? So that in turn got me a scanner. So now I have a full size scanner on my desk here, so I could just draw it and go scan it, and not go to FedEx. I don't have to do that anymore.
That is a big boon.
Oh, so I've wanted one for like decades. Uh, so the positives are, it's kind of unbelievable. So it's a lot of fun. I'm very grateful, and and get to run into other guys like you, you're over here making books too, and
Yeah.
we're
No,
kind of doing
it's a
this.
cool thing to be like part of a comics community. I never would have thought it would have happened.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I don't even think I know anybody in like I think like a couple of years ago I would have said I knew anybody in real life that I could talk comics with, really.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, I know a couple of people, but I don't get to see them on a day-to-day basis that like
Yeah.
the stuff that I do. I've got two brothers, and one of them, my younger brother, he's an artist and he's creating his own stuff. And my older brother, not creative in the slightest, but he likes comics and all this stuff. So we could talk it, but I'm like, I want to know people who make them and understand it, and then here we are.
Yeah. It's pretty wild sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's fun. So the whole part where I was talking about it, sometimes it feels like a second job, and it's kind of like, but ultimately in the end, it's been very worth it. So
Yeah. No, it's cool to finally like I don't know, it's cool to get into one of those because like you see other people who like I don't know, they found something that extra that just adds meaning to, I guess. And it's like, well shit, that'd be nice. And it's like, oh fuck, I actually found one of those.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Chuck's
never would have suspected.
his subscribers have almost doubled his subscriber count in the last month and a half. He's been doing a lot of live streaming with his showing his artwork, doing digital, or now especially moving back into inking by hand. And
Hmm.
I find it fascinating. Just, I'm like, here's a guy who knows how to throw ink down, and I'm like, how did he get those lines out of those pens? What son of a? And then I'm even equally fascinated by the digital stuff he does and all the cool effects.
Yeah.
Because he pointed out to me, he's like, because I've said that I'm not a huge fan of digital inking, and he's like, yeah, you haven't seen mine. Like, that's true. So, and then I was like, oh, it's in a way indistinguishable as far as I'm concerned. I mean, there are certain effects you can do. You're like, well, that's clearly digital, but the actual like line work, the inking, I'm like,
Yeah.
you show that to me, I'd be like, that's probably done by hand, right? Like, nope. It's like I can do it digitally.
Yeah, I know. Somebody who knows what they're doing, they can really come up with something. I think you see a lot of people who are kind of amateurish about it. And it's like, okay, yeah, I see you doing the same line over and over again.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I always like to show this. This is the first thing he did for me. I did the pencils and he did the inks on this, and they're
Yeah.
so sharp, and the metal textures. I was just like, are you kidding me?
Yeah, that's some nice stuff. So
So
how much of that was in the pencils then? That's a good question because I have no idea. I've never used it. I never known an inker.
I mean, the it's more looking at the level of texture that he added to it, like all the kind of muscular anatomy, like the shoulder and the muscle lines.
Yeah.
I indicated there, but he
Right.
took and just embellished it to a whole new level. And then I indicated metal texture for sure, but
Yeah.
all this shiny, reflective, and these swooping lines and these reflective. He kind of added all that. I've got the original pencils here somewhere, but
Well, that'd be cool to compare.
it's
Yeah.
significantly better than what I put down in pencil for sure. And
That's cool
that's
because I always assume like they're just gonna, yeah, like I don't know, go over the lines essentially. Maybe if there's a little bit of a dearth of detail, like add a little bit, but for the most part, I would think it was done mostly in the line weights, but yeah, like obviously not always the case,
yeah. I
and
was
it's
like, just do what you do, man. Like I'm not gonna like. Well, I would like it to look like this. I was like, just you do you, man. And when I got it back, I was like, are you kidding me? Like it's no longer just my work; it's our work. You
yeah,
know, it's a combination of what we do versus you know more me or more him. It's us. So yeah. And he just said right here in the comments, says it helps a lot if you know how to ink to begin with. People that don't know how to ink think that digital is going to cover their flaws. And I've seen that a lot.
Yep.
Like, well, I can't use a brush. So if I just get an iPad, I can make it work. Like,
Yeah. I think we can kind of tell, but that's all right. As long as you're happy.
Yeah, and I've told Chuck 1,000 times, like how much I love that thing, and so I'm gonna just say it again. That was like one of the coolest things to ever get back. I was like, oh wow, stop it! I stared at it for like days. I'm like,
I
wait.
can see it.
I was like, I could do this, or I need to think about this, or I put this crappy line down, and he's like, well, I see where he's going with it, but what if we tried this and just
Yeah,
made like 1,000% different and better? I'm like, oh, okay, all right, well, yeah,
that works too.
yeah, that works. That works really well. So yeah, anybody in here that hasn't, go subscribe to Chuck Gibson's channel and watch his inking. And he's got great like videos of going through photocopies that he made when he used to work at Wildstorm. He's like, yeah, I held these pages in my hand and I just photocopied them for my own kind of like studying and reference. And
That's just smart.
that's what I'm like, are you kidding me? He told me, you know, the cover to the first issue of the Jim Lee's regular, when he became the regular artist. In fact, I've got it sitting right here next to me.
The regular
Um,
artists.
this image.
Oh, for fuck's sake. Okay, yeah.
He's like, I've held that in my hand. I'm like, shut up,
That's
you did not.
crazy. I figured you meant like, Wildcats number 37 or whatever, like not one of the more recognizable covers in comics history, but
Oh, I just think it's so great. And he's like, yeah, I held it. So,
that's a brag. Yep.
yeah, I mean, like he worked in the studio with the guys. I'm like, are you kidding? Chuck, he says, I always like seeing when you show it, Rob. I've never printed one out. You've only seen it on the screen besides you. Yeah, it looks great as a print. I keep meaning to put it on the wall, but I like having it sitting right next to me so I can snag it for like reference. Like if somebody's like, "Hey, what is the difference between pencils and inks?" Like, well, let me show you an example, and here you go.
Hmm.
So I'd have to get up and go pull it off the wall. So, and then seeing the way he does stuff kind of informs how I kind of like start looking at when I'm doing my own thing. I'm like,
Yeah, I imagine it would actually. Yeah.
I need to start thinking like this a little bit more. So everyone's kind of having the opportunity to like learn and grow and have fun. So it's good times.
Yeah, it sounds sick.
Yes, yes. And sorry, chat. Normally I pay a little bit more attention to the chat itself. But I
I was
don't know.
kind of wondering how this would go,
Like we get kind of wrapped up in conversation. It's like, oh, I got this is a guy who knows what I'm talking about. We got similar like interests.
Who'd have thought it? We have almost identical channels.
I know, right? Who would have believed?
I think I saw Chuck Lee say, what was it? You just try to copy comic inker's work. Is that how you learn how to do it? I'm trying to remember how I started learning how to ink. I don't. Oh fuck, smudged a whole bunch. Well, don't do that to start with. Um, trying to think of how I started. I think it was all with Micron Pigmas, and I don't remember why we made that decision. That was me and a couple of my friends. Um, I think probably just because trying to learn because we knew what the Pro Tools were, the 102s and the Sable, whatever the fuck brush, and all that shit.
That you can't get anymore. The old school like
Yeah,
super
some of those
bright.
are all out of commission now, eh?
Yeah, I mean, Chuck was explaining to me they like the hairs came from this animal that became on an endangered species list, so they stopped being able to make them. If I I'm like, really?
Yeah, I can see it.
Yeah, I mean it makes sense, but I'm like these little muskrat creatures or whatever, these little varmints. I'm like,
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Moleskin? No, that's not quite right, is it? I don't know. So, I kind of know the word you're talking about.
and I didn't know any of that. I was like, oh, really? Is that why people are saying like you can't get a good brush? Like the old school. I hear about the old school paper that Image Comics used to have was supposed to be this incredible stuff,
Yeah,
and the brushes. It didn't even. I heard about like it didn't even occur to me, but like the Hunt 102 nibs, like there can be shit versions of them just cheaply made. I'm like, well, duh, I guess that makes sense, but it never occurred to me. I'm like, this is the same thing everyone uses, but they're probably not as good.
yeah. Those must have been all the ones I got when I was learning. That's why my stuff didn't look very good.
The paper has taken a real quality dive thanks to the fucking tree hugging environmentalists. I believe it.
I think this Tombo's just about out of gas. I think it's time to bust out a new one.
Time to retire it, promote it to garbage duty.
Yeah, just it can do some fills. It can do some like give me a dry brush looking quality every once in a while, maybe.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
What is it? Is this more of the same? Okay. Yep. There's one of the guys who's on my streams all the time. He was, I think, on the Tombow train early, and he found a bunch of. He found some Amazon order where I could get like 50 Tombos for a reasonable price. I think it was like 70 something
Yeah.
Canadian, which is like shit, dog. Yeah, and I can't. I don't think I've been able to find it since. So I'm kind of glad I picked it up when I did.
Right. Sometimes you gotta like, ooh, that's a deal I can't pass up. I may never
Yeah,
find.
I wasn't even 100% sure on the Tombos just yet, but it was like I'm pretty sure I'm gonna like these a lot, and I can do it today, so I better do it.
Right. I'm kind of the same way when I walk into this arts and crafts store, Michael's Arts and Crafts. I don't know if they have that where you're at.
They do actually,
Okay.
not near me, but yeah, at least in Vancouver anyway.
Right. And I'm like, they'll have these promos running for like you buy one pad of paper, you get the second one at like half cost. And I'm like, I've got 3 pads of them at home. I'm getting 2 more.
I
I'll
guess.
never not. You know what I mean?
Yep.
It'll always be used. And when I can get one for half cost, it's like 50% off. I'm like, that's like it's like $8 for a pad of 24 pages. I'm like, all right, let's.
That's hard to turn down.
Yeah. So I'm like, I'll always because the paper doesn't really go bad, right? I mean, it's
No,
just as long as you keep it in like a controlled environment or it's not outside or something. It's like it'll always be good paper. So let's just stack it up. Yeah, you guys they're talking about those pens in the chat. I'm like, I'm just gonna have to order some and just try it.
I'd recommend getting like one or two. There's a soft one and a hard one. I think I like the I can't remember which one this is now. I think this is the soft one. I think I actually like the hard one a little bit better, and now I'm all out of them.
That's what
I managed to get 50 of the soft ones. That's okay.
Yeah, yeah, I've heard the different. So you can get different like lines out of different, soft tip, hard tip, depending what you want.
Yeah. Hey Montoya, you made it, and I see Brain there. Sorry, some of the guys I know are
Yeah, yeah,
stopping in
I
there.
recognize the names. I've stopped in on yours.
Oh yeah.
Chuck said there's a 3-pack, hard, soft, and gray tips for under $10.
All right.
That's doable.
Not too bad. Oh, I kind of wanted to do, I think, shadow across this guy's face a little bit, which is a great thing to decide after I've started drawing it.
You think I was going to do this thing? Oh, son of a monkey nut. Let's see. The Montoya says, finally catching a Norton stream, even just a bit. Well, thank you. Thanks for stopping in.
There's a temptation. Because I just fired up a new pen here, a brush pen, to just keep hatching. It's like if I see white space, it's like that could use a little bit of rendering.
There could use some line work. Why stop now?
And it's like this thing is going to be gray by the time you're done, man.
But done right, that's awesome. You know what I mean? But there is that. It's like, where is the perfect place to stop? Because sometimes you're just, the lines are coming out of your tool like so well. I'm like, oh, keep going. The lines are flowing. I got to keep going. And then you're like, oh, I should have stopped about 20 minutes ago. I'm like, oh, son of a shit.
Yeah, well, I mean, you can't say you didn't have a good time. So that's good enough.
It's all learning. Like, as long as you're putting lines down, I remember some interview with some artist that said years ago, it's like, draw every day, even if you're just taking a pen or pencil and just like scribbling lines on paper, you're still kind of learning something if you're paying attention. I was like,
right.
Oh yeah, I agree with that. If you're, just scribbling is like doing something that you can kind of adapt later.
Well, it's not, I mean, any kind of random thing, your brain is still actually deciding where to go, right? So, I mean, theoretically, at least, it should be, making some decisions and maybe going, no, not this way, this way. It's an interesting idea.
Chuck just said the same thing. He's like, you get really into playing with your tool, and then you look up and realize you made a mess. But at least you have what we were just saying. Yeah. You're like, oh, it was going so well.
Slightly different end result, but yeah.
Yeah, I was excited for it, and I screwed it up. Oh, well. But then I can't bring myself to just get rid of it. I'm like, well, I'll just hold on to it till the end of time for some reason.
Yeah, well, I mean, the problem is I always want to get rid of a pen when it's almost dead, and it's like, but if I do that, like I could totally use this to fill in some blacks. It's like, will I use it? I very possibly could, and never and then never runs out when I think it's gonna. And it's like, well, shit. Now I just got this frayed piece of shit pen left that I refuse to give up on.
I do that all the time. I'm like, I should just toss this thing. But it's still throwing a few lines down, so it's not 100% dead. I don't think I've ever taken a Micron pen and drawn it with it until it absolutely stopped producing a line. It just never stops. It just gets a little more faded, but it keeps going. So I'm like, fuck it, just come on, just move on.
Too thick.
Chuck Lee says, drawing and inking while you're high is a blast.
I got to try it someday. Although mine are always on camera, so maybe not.
I don't know. I did a drunk live stream, and that was embarrassing, but it's still up. Me and my brother, I'm like, this is embarrassing, but I'm like, it's staying up there. We reviewed a Liefeld book, The Bad Blood, and we just...
Oh, the new one.
Well, the first one, which has been out for a minute.
Oh, right. There's Bad Blood, and then there's Badder Blood, right?
Yeah. We're like, well, let's talk about this, and we were drunk off our asses. It's kind of embarrassing. Probably hard to watch, but we're just giggling and having just the greatest time. And we ordered pizza, and they double delivered to our door, so we got like you got a free pizza, and we're like laughing about it, and just, I don't know. So I did that, and people are like, you got to do that again. I'm like,
yep.
I'm an old man anymore. It's kind of hard to recover from that stuff. I'm not like it was when I was 20 and I could get blasted. I'm like, yeah, I'm fine.
It is nice though that you can say, "Oh yeah, no, there was that time I had the drunk stream."
Yeah,
And the evidence is out there.
it is. And for some reason, when I'm intoxicated, I like to tell my younger brother to shut up. I did it like I counted with,
Oh.
and I was like, hey, shut up, listen. And so we counted. I did it like something like 60 times. It was just, oh, it just was nonstop. So it's fun for me, and a couple of the people who know me really well, like, damn, Rob, that was fun. Do it again. And I'm like, at first it was like, absolutely not. But now I'm kind of like, maybe.
Well, I think the thing you just want to avoid is just make sure it doesn't become like, you know, your Thursday afternoon kind of thing, or
Right?
or like every afternoon, you
Yeah.
know.
Rob's drunk every week. I think somebody needs to do an intervention for this poor man. This is not okay. We're watching the decline of this stupid, stupid man. Somebody should say something. They're like, but no, he's having a
It's like,
great
yeah,
time.
as soon as he stops doing them, because they are pretty funny. You know?
Yeah. Yeah. And then he's like, I don't know, maybe my wake up call would be like straight vomit onto a page or a comic on screen.
Oh yeah.
You're like, all
Or
right,
like
well,
somebody sends something in that you're ruined.
they're like, all right, well, yeah,
That's my moment
Rob's
of clarity.
right. Yeah, I had what alcoholics refer to as a moment of clarity. Yeah, Rob's Thursday day drinking stream. Oh, yeah. So it'll probably happen again sometime, but maybe at most I would say once a year. That's probably the
There
best.
you go.
You'll get
The
that out of me.
annual, yeah, the annual drunk cast.
Yeah, I drink so infrequently because it tastes terrible. I hate it. It's god awful. But I like to giggle, and I'm a giggler, so that's
Yeah,
what I do.
that'll work.
it'll it'll be embarrassing, but
I mean, it word gets out, that'll drive up the view count.
it might. Kevin says it's like Cheers, but online and not uplifting. That's oh. Hey, do you have a tool that you use to do like reductive, like white on top of black that you like? Because
No.
do you have one that you use that sort of does the job, or do you just
Yeah, the Presto jumbo correction pens.
okay?
These are ones I've seen Jim Lee use them on his stream.
Oh shit! Chuck Gibson just said, "Boom!" Right there. He said the same thing.
Yeah, and they're okay for what they are. But I can't. It's not like drawing a white line. It is. It's unless you're. I don't know. Unless you get good at it, I guess. Which I am not.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, they're okay. There's a white ink that I got sitting in an Amazon order. I'm gonna eventually commit to buying. It's like a manga ink or something that I think would probably work with like a pen nib.
Right.
Trying to remember what that's called here.
I keep seeing these inks. Like when I go buy the ink that I buy this Dr. Phil Martin's Black Star.
Okay.
Matte, is the one that I like. And I see there's bottles of white ink. I'm like, well, would that draw on top of the black? But I don't want to spend freaking. They're like almost
Yeah.
bucks to get a bottle of white ink that doesn't do nothing. So then I just blew the money for no reason.
Okay, so the stuff I'm looking at is called Deleter. I don't. I've seen a couple of things online vouch for it. I don't think I've spoken to anybody who vouched for it though, and that's kind of the make or break, right?
Right.
And everything else I've tried to use, apart from the Presto jumbo correction stuff, it doesn't get through the black enough. It turns into gray pretty quick. I've got these Posca white marker things, which are okay for like a second, and then they start turning gray real quick.
Yeah. I've been using these they're Sakura jelly roll pens,
Yeah.
and they're good for like little tiny spot corrections and doing some lines in black, but you can't do big surfaces. So
Well, I'm good.
they're very useful, but it's not perfect. It's not like a solution to everything.
Yeah,
Uh,
you want it to be.
some people,
Yeah, I've tried like 4 or 5 different methods for the
right?
white method, and I assume it's just got to be like white paint with a brush, or a pen nib if that'll work.
Well, yeah, I'm scrolling back through some of these um, the comments. People are talking about it. Um, Guy says check out Uniball Signo gel pen. Um, let's
A
see.
white Sharpie marker. That's an
I've
idea.
seen those, yeah, where it's like a paint. I've seen like paint markers where it's like a paint inside it that would draw a solid black white line. Um, let's see. Chuck says Pro White comes in an ink bottle, water it down a little, and it runs through a quill and is really opaque. That's an interesting idea,
Okay, I mean, I'll take his word over most people, to be honest.
right?
Yep.
The guy who would know.
Yep. If it's good enough for a guy who I think spoke to Scott Williams, God damn it, it's probably good enough for me.
I mean, right? Basically that simple. He learned from Scott Williams himself, so I'm like, all right, I will listen to you, sir.
Yep.
Yeah, I found
Here.
the black ink that I use when I was watching a couple years ago. Jonathan Galapian, the inker for he does a lot of work on uh, Greg Capullo. He did this video
Okay.
where he was inking this owl that was in one of the Batman Court of Owls, just a splash page of an owl. And I'm
Right.
like, he did it so fast and gets all these incredible textures. And he even said he was using like a junk brush. I think he found it with his daughter's art supplies, but it was holding a really nice sharp tip. He's like, it's actually working really well. And he showed me the ink he was using, showed me, us.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was like, that ink looks great. So I went and found it at my art store.
Yeah.
And like, okay, this works way better than some of the like other stuff. I think it's like a difference of like how much carbon is in the ink. Some of it's like shiny,
Probably.
and
That sounds about right. Okay.
I don't like it when it goes dry and it's shiny, like shiny. I want like that matte finish, like a dull black. I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, I found what I love. At least as far as what I've used so far, I've found what I love.
Which one? So which one was this?
The one that he was using that I now get is this Dr. Phil Martin's Black Star in the matte finish.
All right.
Yeah, and it's
I'll look
all
into
I
that.
use. It's just not. It's just this. And I've heard other people talk about you get this, and then you mix it with this, and then this works. And I'm sure it's all great, but I'm like, this stuff works good enough. I'm like, I don't know
Mhm.
if I want to become a chemist and start mixing things and experimenting.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I guess theoretically, if we're at this long enough, we will get to that point, right? Where it's just like, no, no, no. Let me show you what to do with this stuff.
Right?
That'd be kind of cool to get there.
Let's see. Just scrolling back to see if I. There's a lot of fun conversation people are having in the chat. That's fun.
Good. Awesome.
Kevin
I
B. Hall says he got a couple of them white Sakuras based on my recommendation. They're surprisingly good at cover black, but yeah, they're not good for large areas.
Yeah.
So, right. And I know I was saying, I think you're on one of your live streams, and I was mentioning how I appreciate how you too seem to pencil rough,
Uh-huh.
and
If you
then
can even
like
call it pencils.
you're like, I'm gonna find the drawing in the inking stage. Let's get going.
Yeah. No, I'd like to get like complete pencils done, but like I don't have it in me.
Well,
I'll
I
get
don't know if
frustrated within. Yeah.
I don't know if it's
Sorry.
necessary if you are comfortable enough with what you're going to do.
Yeah.
For better or worse, that's what I do when I ink my own stuff. It's so rough. I'm like, I'm just gonna go, and it
A
works.
lot of the time, one of the fun things is a lot of the time it's just like I really want to get to it, and it's like I can't wait that long to like I don't know do like really intricate pencils. Like give me my fucking pen.
Right? Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah.
But I see a lot of artists that do the same thing. Gary Frank.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you happen to follow him on Instagram?
I believe I do. I don't see him post a ton, but yeah.
He's been putting up these pages. I think he's working for that new that company that's coming out that
Oop.
they're putting out all these new books. Brian Hitch is working with them, and
Oh, I think I
but
remember hearing about that now. Yeah.
yeah, I can't think it. Somebody will remember. But he was doing some drawings of some animals, and his pencils were so unbelievably rough. And he took photos as he did it in stages. You know, little inking, took a photo. Little inking, took a photo. And I'm just like, this is a master at work to just know to be able to take it from that rough of a pencil and just go straight to the inking. It looked so good.
Yeah.
Ghost Machine. Thank you, Chuck Gibson. I knew one of y'all would.
And yeah, his the stuff of his I have seen looks very meticulous too. So that's a bit surprising to hear that he doesn't have particularly I don't know detailed pencils by the sound of it.
And I don't know if if he's worked with inkers. I'm sure he probably did more precise stuff. But if he's inking himself, I
Yeah.
never care for his work up until he did that Supreme Power series. I don't know if you ever read that.
I don't think I did.
I was
I,
like, that was one of my most favorite comics of all time, and it still is, except for the fact that it went for like 20 issues or something, and then they stopped without finishing the story. And then they joined the Ultimate Universe and never. And I'm fucking out. So I was frustrated that they didn't. They started this really fun, decompressed to hell, like slow burn, but I was just fascinated. And Gary Frank that's the first time I ever like paid attention to his work, and I'm like, this is incredible stuff. Because I knew he did a run on Gen 13. I'm like, well, that sucks. That looks terrible. That's not J. Scott.
yeah, yeah, I remember that. Yeah,
And again, no disrespect meant to anybody who loves it. Just for me, I'm like, you go from J. Scott Campbell to Gary Frank, it's not working. It's not the same.
it's a tough transition. Yeah,
Yeah. And Gen 13's never worked since J. Scott Campbell left. Like, it was his magic,
that's true.
never came back. It's never there again.
I'm sure there's a lot of people who like the bootleg thing, but
Oh
it,
yeah,
it's not quite the same. Yeah,
yeah. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah, oh yeah. I'm like, how did I get to this? Like, how did we go from here to here to here to here to here? But yeah, talking about rough pencils and going straight to inks, and then that was just the first one that come to my mind is watching him do these incredible animal drawings. If you get it when you get a chance, you scope them out on Instagram. They're recent-ish. You shouldn't have to scroll back very far at all, but you'd
all right.
recognize it right away and be like, "Oh, yeah, yeah, that man can draw."
Yeah, no, it's a little upsetting sometimes seeing just how good some of these guys are.
Right. You're like, "Oh, just go burn my pages and go to bed now."
It's like I was feeling good about myself for a minute there.
I
Never mind.
I was feeling good, and then I went online and watched like, oh, look at this great drawing by this guy or that guy or just
Yeah.
anybody. And then the other thing I see is like guys who are not anybody you've ever heard of. They're just social media famous, but they're
Yep.
so good.
Yep. I comfort myself by uh, convincing myself that they don't produce many works. Like they're not very what's the word? Prodigious? No,
Prolific.
that's the one. Thank you.
Well, That's funny that you say that, because what I see so many of these artists that are just the most incredible, like, pinup artists or cover artists, and they call themselves in their like bios comic artists. I'm like, well, you're
Mm,
drawing comic book characters and you're doing it
yeah,
very well, and you're probably making money
you
on it.
probably could do a good comic.
Yeah, but can you draw a comic book? And they don't. And that's where I
Yeah,
kind of gather a little bit of like self confidence for myself. I'm like, well, I made a story you can read. So did Mitch. So did one of my other buddies, Saul Haberfield, who's made this great book called Beyond the Void. I just love it. I'm always up his ass. When's book 3 coming out? He's like, I have a newborn baby and a job. Shut up, Rob. I'm like, I'm sorry. You just want to read your book so bad. I love it so much. And but then, yeah, I'm not going to be the prettiest artist as far as how I look, but also as far as I draw.
yeah.
But but at least I make comic books.
It is a big difference. And I mean, you got to hang on to what you can, right?
Right. Yeah. I'm like, all right, I'm doing what I got here.
Yeah.
Gene Men, talking about cutouts from black paper with an X-Acto blade. You ever try that? I've taken X-Acto blades and I've scratched up the surface of my pages to give it a texture,
Oh
and it
yeah.
does chew up the paper, but it gives a really neat scratchy kind of like, I don't
Hmm.
know how else you would produce that kind of look by hand, except for this, when you got a black surface and you just scratch up the page and it gives it a really interesting look. It's kind of fun to do, but you are chewing the shit out of your page. But if you got
It's
a light hand, you're not cutting through it.
right. Hmm. I have to
Uh,
check out what kind of effect that gets.
yeah, I know I've got some. If I dig it up, my pages right here. Let me see. Yeah, let's see. Do, 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 do. Oh, cool. Somewhere here. This is good live stream where I'm just flipping through stuff looking for.
I'm making sure to keep drawing, so there's something to look at least.
Right. Well, here's, it's probably not going to show up very well, but I get my camera stopped bouncing. See
Hmm.
these dry brush lines, but these little splotchy little dotted
Yeah,
little scratch. That's just with the razor blade, and it makes a neat texture. I kind of dig it.
yeah, that's not bad.
So it's, you know,
Good on you for trying it. I think you've done that before a few times.
I've done it on my pages, yeah, and
Yeah, and
I
I don't think that's the page where you're just like, I'm gonna try some fucked up shit.
let's just start chewing it up. I remember reading an interview with an artist just said, "Yeah, I take a razor blade and scratch in some textures." I was like, "What?" This is years and years ago. I'm like,
Yeah.
"You can do that?" All right, let's start chewing pages up. All right, set those back aside. But I also think it's one of those things where if you could kind of fall in love with that look a little bit too much, and then you start doing it everywhere, and then you're
Yeah,
like,
there'd be all sorts of situations where it's not appropriate.
you're like, that didn't need to be there. You're just falling in love with just doing the scratchiness. Now it's like, that's boring.
Yeah, yeah, you don't want to make it like old news.
Chuck Lee is asking, what do comic pages go for? $3 or more? Well, I mean, it depends on
I
what
have
you
no
get.
idea per page. Yeah.
I mean, I buy these. It's the brand is Master Touch,
Okay.
Smooth Bristol, 24 sheets for $16.99. And like I said, you go to the art store, they do a half off, and it's smooth Bristol board. I mean, it's pretty dang good. I mean, it's the best stuff I've ever worked on. I haven't worked on all kinds of stuff, so I can't like compare it to, you know, much else, but it's pretty dang good.
Yeah, I use the what is it? Strathmore 200s, which is on the cheaper side for the Strathmore stuff. I think they're at this point they're like $45 for a sheet of 24, but that's $45 Canadian. So I don't know, like a buck 50 American, whatever the fucking conversion rate is.
Whatever the conversion. Thanks, Panda. I appreciate that. He's just saying that's one of the favorite pages of mine. The razor blade technique gave those lines so much energy. Yeah, like, when you utilize them in the right place, and again,
Mhm.
not talking like I'm a pro. I just sometimes just pure luck. You're like, this thing worked out, and that was like, how'd you know to do that? I'm like, I just luck, just pure luck. It didn't work out.
I was not envisioning this at all.
No, I was like, oh, well, all right. Well, I
Yeah.
guess we'll do that. Do you know what program you're going to use to do your lettering? Have you figured that out? I seem to remember one time you were not sure.
Well, yeah, I think yeah, because you told me about the program I did end up getting. I now I don't remember what it's called, and it's not actually on this computer, but
Comic Life.
yeah, I think that's it. Yeah, so I'm using that for dialogue anyway. I'm not super stoked on the variety of word balloon or sound effect designs. I assume
Oh
you can
yeah,
get like more packs and shit
yeah.
or something. Yeah. But I decided, you know what? Like I could do that, or I could just try and letter the sound effects myself, which I think would be more fun.
It could be
And
if the idea didn't make me want to puke, because I right I hate lettering, and I know it looks better by hand for sure, 100%. So, but I'm
yeah,
just, oh god.
I yeah, I don't know. I've tried to improve my lettering a little bit over the years, and I think I fell off a lot when I because I kind of stopped drawing for a few years there before I started up on Blood Force again. Um, but yeah, when I was a kid, I kind of focused a little bit on lettering, so there's a little bit of that left, I think, and I don't know, it's a lot of fun, and I don't know, just discovering guys like John Workman, um, in like Walt Simonson comics, and just the goofy shit he does. Just coming up with
Yeah,
like really silly sound effects. It's like I like that, and I kind of want to get in on that.
that's funny because I've talked a bit about how much I hate lettering or not lettering, but like sound effects, especially
Yeah,
when they're intrusive. Like, I was going through an issue of Dragon, and like there's this giant explosion, and there's this unreadable giant text that says Shreka Kathuka Boom Shumba Boom. And
yep,
I'm like, and it's covering the art. I'm like, I don't need to see this. It drives me insane. And then I read some other books that I'm really a big fan of, like Planetary by Warren Ellis and John
yep,
Cassidy. And there are zero sound effects in it anywhere.
yeah. I
And I'm
think
like,
that was part of the point of that one. Yeah.
it was so perfect. I'm like, oh, so it doesn't have to be there. So,
No, it definitely doesn't have to. I think it depends on what you're trying to accomplish.
right.
I think I think Eric Larson was going for more of he's going for more like an old school comic book feel, like a cheesy comic book feel.
Yes.
So, and I think Chris Eliopoulos goes a little bit too overboard and takes up a bit too much room, but he wants that kind of letterer that fills up a lot of space.
Sure.
Like I think of those the John Workman pages that he's doing with Walt Simonson, and he doesn't usually do huge lettering, like definitely not covering up artwork. But what he will do is do a lot of small lettering, like small sound effects all over the place, but it kind of fills up the space, like fills up the atmosphere.
Sure.
It has an interesting effect. I didn't even notice it at first. Like I think up until a while ago, I didn't care too much about lettering. I've seen like some pretty good stuff, but it wasn't a big deal. I'm starting to get more and more into it now, though.
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't pay attention to it at all, and but I listening to the cartoonist kayfabe guys, how they are hardcore
Yeah.
letterers and advocates of doing it by hand, and if your digital lettering sucks shit, and so I was like, well, okay. So I started paying attention to it, and I was
Yep.
like, okay, I actually see exactly what they're talking about. I still
Yes.
don't like to do it. I don't want to do it, but I see what they're saying.
Yep.
So I took a lesson, I'm like, okay, all right, all right. They made a point and they're not wrong. I just
Yep.
still I can't imagine sitting here and like drawing bubbles and using the Ames lettering guide and then hand lettering in because my handwriting sucks.
Yeah, that's the thing. I don't use it for dialogue because I've tried that and it doesn't come out right. Not when I do it. So
Yeah,
I'm gonna let the computer handle that shit. It's just the fun stuff I'm gonna do.
that makes sense.
Yeah. It's interesting though, because one kind of side effect I think I noticed was that because of the way we make comics, which is almost exclusively traditional media, right?
Right.
You tend to attract a crowd that really values traditional media, and that goes so far as to extend to the lettering. A lot of guys really dig the hand lettered stuff, even if it's kind of cheesy looking, or sometimes it's especially if it's kind of cheesy looking.
Yeah, yeah. You are correct, sir.
Eh,
It's just one of those things. I'm like, if I'm making these on my own, the one thing I will take a beating on because I'm not going to change is you're going to have to suffer through the fact that I'm not going to hand letter this. I can't. So I try to make it as unnoticeable as possible.
yeah, it's a
Like
good idea.
just have it flow naturally and be out of the way, but be in the right place, and then just learning to where to put stuff. And suddenly you're like, I didn't leave enough room for this speech this character is going to give. Oh Lord, now what do I
Hmm.
do? So then you start. That's why I'm like, I don't even have the script written for my thing because I'm not doing the final version of the script until I'm actually lettering the book. I will handwrite out the script on a legal pad, and then once I sit down to and letter the page, um, I'll have places where I'm like, it just suddenly becomes
Ah,
clear I didn't need this, or I do need this, or I just
yeah.
ran out of space. So I'm just like, well, I can't have this, so I better pare down the dialogue or the statement to the most necessary element because you can't fit it all on this page.
So that's interesting. You're kind of like doing your own Marvel method, like with yourself, though.
Yeah, yeah, I've thought about that. Yeah, it's just like draw it and then yeah, I have certain moments figured out as far as what they're going to say, but as far as I don't have full script written out, I have plot. So
Yeah,
yeah, like you're saying,
interesting. No,
I
I always do a full script beforehand, or a full script minus fight scenes, because
sure,
fight scenes they just kind of write themselves,
yes, they do.
and it's interesting because I find I don't pay attention to whether or not I can draw a thing when I'm writing it, which is kind of bad. Like from the penciler's perspective, certainly, or the artist's perspective. It does make me keep trying to draw things I'm not comfortable with.
Yeah,
So yeah. So like right now I keep having to draw fucking alien tech, and like I'm never happy with it. But one thing I am kind of learning to find something that's getting closer to I'm getting closer to being okay with,
right.
which
Yes.
I wouldn't have done if it was just if the penciler had all this say. It would have been like, what are you talking about? We're these guys are going to be fighting in a field.
It's winter in the mountains in a cave.
Yeah,
So,
and ninjas attacked.
right. So it's a lot of shadows and
I
glinting.
believe that was one of the Rob Liefeld Snake Eyes issues.
It was. It was. There was winter mountain fighting.
Yep.
Oh, brilliant.
I plan on doing one of those in one of my issues eventually. So, the guy's got to go into the mountains with his tattered shawl around his shoulders, and then his regular costume underneath.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
Well, every time I look at a Steve Platt book, it's like you're not enough like this. You got to do something about that.
Yeah, I think I subconsciously, in my final scene here, like I had the villain that they finally ultimately go because they're in this like village in this like valley surrounded by mountains at the coast where there's water. But the
Mm-hmm.
bad guy just happens to be in the mountains in a cave. And so that's where the whole battle takes place. And then the evil villain blows up the side of the mountain. So the entire final battle is just characters surrounded by rocks and smoke.
Yep.
So I'm like, I didn't
Hey,
intentionally write it that way to like make it easier to draw, but I think subconsciously I 100% was doing that because it makes it easier to draw.
could be.
It's like it's just rocks and smoke everywhere. I'm like,
I mean, what are you gonna do? Complain now? Everything worked out.
yeah, it's I have no one to blame but myself. But now that I'm done with that and I'm moving characters out of that scene, I'm like, oh yeah, I got to draw this village again that was like attacked by giant monsters. So there's floodwaters and fires and damaged, burned buildings. I'm like, oh, I got to do this shit again.
See if I can find one of my. I gotta find a great page around here. Might as well. Okay. Oh, what is it? Oh, here's a couple. Oh, that's. Yep. You get almost lost it.
Uh-oh. Careful. Artwork down. Artwork down.
Well, I was almost my phone down. That's potentially a bit more of a problem. Yeah, you good? You good? All right. That's what I get for getting up.
That'll teach you.
Yep. Yoink. Thank you. Yeah, no. So this is the kind of shit. Excuse. Oh yeah, no. So it's not showing up on the live stream just yet. This is the kind of shit I scripted and knew it was going to be a bitch to draw. Where it was just like, okay, so this is going to be all tech you don't know how to draw and endless greats. I'm pretty sure this panel on its own, the one on the left here, took me about 4 hours.
Oh.
Of just like
great, dude. It looks really good.
Thanks. I fucking hope so.
You're like, after all the time I put into this, it dang well better at least look.
Yeah. And yeah. So like, and I every once in a while I keep having to do one of these, and it's like, okay, well, I mean, it's instant like production value because like nobody's looking at that page and go, man, I didn't get my money's worth. Like I skipped on the greats.
I don't know, man. I think like seeing that as like a comic reading fan, it stands out. Like that looks good. And then I think a lot of people's first instinct would be like, well, you must have done it digitally. And you could be like, no, I drew it by hand. You can
well, I can be like, here's the link to the live stream where I did it.
Right, exactly. Or you can be like, I can show you the original page. I put in the time, and that makes it, but that's one of those things where it's like someone who knows like what effort took is like an artist would be like, oh, that took a lot of effort that guy put into it. It does look like it's not a boring page. It's not visually uninteresting. So that's you could be proud of that.
Yeah. And hey, I just having gotten it done is like, holy shit, I actually did it.
I did this thing.
I knew I was going to have to draw that god awful great page, and then it actually happened.
Yeah. You're like, I hope I never do this again. And then you're like, oh wait, I got to do it.
Well, you know, he's going to be on that ship for at least another issue or two, so there's going to be more greats, which my guys will be really happy about.
Yeah. D-Man recognizes King Randor. You're right, that is him. I gotta have some finality to all these characters we were talking about.
I'm gonna go back through this after and just like look at the text while we're talking, and I bet you it'll be a whole different experience.
Like people were saying all kinds of stuff that we were missing. Right? One of them called me a son of a bitch, and I didn't even catch it. I gotta go find that person.
I totally would have had a comeback ready too.
I would have had a great comeback.
What are we doing here? I think I'm just about done with figures. I just need some thing in the background here to kind of some kind of background element, which usually means speed lines.
Speed lines are magical.
Yeah, I think we have to have them all pointing at the boobs. I think that's just good sense.
Your point. Yes. Like they all got to start from somewhere, so why not point at the girl? Real quick, Wiley J. Draws says, in case anyone missed it, Jim Rugg posted on Cartoonist Kayfabe. What did he say? I saw them put up the.
There was the memorial thing.
I saw that. I was just wondering if there was something else. I was watching some of it on my lunch break, and I only got about 15.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
Yeah. That whole situation pisses me off.
It was bad. Yeah, me too. It was yeah. The memorial thing was pretty good.
Did you see the part where one of his sisters started talking and she just broke down crying as soon as she started?
Yeah, it was pretty early on in the proceedings.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, these people are still suffering, you know.
Oh yeah.
I mean, of course,
it's still only been like a couple of months, right?
It was April 1st. It was April Fool's Day. Everyone's like, is this a joke?
Yep.
And then, yeah, no, it's just fucking horrifically real.
Yeah.
So yeah, I haven't had a chance to finish watching that, but I definitely plan to. I just,
there's some nice stories in it. I liked it a fair bit.
Yeah, I got to the part where they were talking about the Tim Vigil.
Yeah.
Shoot, and how they had him like up against the back wall in their hotel room, and the other guy was
and the shirtless guy wanders out of the bathroom.
Yeah. And they come out, and so they're like, Vigil, this is not a creepy thing. I swear to God, we didn't corner you in our hotel room with a shirtless dude.
Say, all right, Tim, let's get down to business.
Right. You're here, so let's talk about what you got to do to get out of this situation. Oh. And of course, like all of us, I can't help but wonder, like, what is Jim Rugg going to eventually end up doing? Is he going to keep that?
I got to think,
new content on that channel, or leave it there and start something? I don't know. What is he going to do? You know?
I don't imagine it's going to be Cartoonist Kayfabe anymore. Like whatever he's going to do next, even if he decides to do something on YouTube or not. I think it'd be kind of difficult for him to do it now.
I would agree. That would make perfect sense. But I'm also, part of me is like, they put in so much time and effort to build this.
They did.
Audience. But I think almost all of that audience would follow him to some new thing.
Probably. Yeah. But it'd be tough though, because I mean, like the banter is like the whole thing, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Who do you get to be like a new co-host unless you do it yourself?
Yeah.
Would it be hard?
I mean, I think the obvious candidate would be Tom Scioli.
I think that would be great. Scioli's I don't know if you've listened to much of his interviews, but that man's it seems to me like that man's brain is trying to espouse so many ideas at once. He tends to not finish sentences. He'll like
Yeah.
stop halfway through. He's like, I was in the middle of this thing, and then so I had to do this, and then and I'm like, dude, calm down. You're trying to communicate so much, and I'm here for it. But he's just go, 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 go. Wiley J.
Yeah.
Draw says Jim should post once a week with different creators. I would watch that. I would watch anything he does. I would
That would
be
be cool.
yeah. Like here's someone to co-host with.
And I mean, they know enough of the guys. Like they can get some really. I mean, they've already gotten a ridiculous amount of interesting creators in on there.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Kevin B. Hall, when we were talking about how Vigil was going to be trapped, and he's like, "Look, man, it's Vigil. He might have been into it.
He might have.
He might have been like, ooh, tell me
I feel some
more.
inspiration.
What's going in the next book?" They're like, oh wait, this suddenly we're trapped with Vigil. Yeah, it's like with the Watchmen. I'm not
Yep.
trapped in here with you. You're trapped in here with me. Oh my god, that would be great. God, I gotta draw some buildings here, so I gotta do some like perspective bullshit.
Oh yeah, that's fun.
Oh look, I gotta have a vanishing point, and I gotta have lines converging. Gotta draw buildings.
Oh shit! Did I? Oh, I didn't. I don't think I tailed off the line too much. That's something.
Donovan Bailey says that's hard. I'll pay for a stencil for tattoo. I guess it depends on which one of us he's talking to. I'm going to think he's talking about yours because yours is way more tattoo worthy. Just drawing a man dying in an own pool of his own blood.
If anybody ever wants to offer me money, feel free. Links are in the description on my page.
Donations graciously.
I will give you a strong thumbs up in return.
Oh, your audio's gotten a little. Your audio's gotten a little quieter.
Ah, interesting. Okay, I'll try to speak up a little bit.
Oh, there's something with the connection.
Maybe it feels like I'm losing you a little bit too. Interesting.
Anybody in the chat? Is it both of us?
Yeah, there's a good question. Mic problems from. Do Blood Force and He-Man exist in the same comic universe?
I mean, they could.
It's I mean, He-Man's supposed to. Is there like a before man kind of timeline going on there? I don't remember the He-Man lore. Maybe it's Star Wars I'm thinking of. I think
The audio's gone.
Ah. That goes both, apparently. I can turn off my fan. That'll be fun.
I don't think it's that. It's just, it's going, it's YouTube.
Yeah.
This happens often. Me and my where it goes screwy and it's neither one of us done.
Right.
I don't know how to fix it.
Well, I guess we just gotta hope it gets a little better. I should be right by my microphone. There's no reason mine would be low. Yeah. turn that fan back on, or I'm going to be dripping onto the freaking page here. There we go.
I don't know what. Well, we're almost at the 2-hour mark. This is about as far as I can go away.
Yeah, I was. Yeah, okay, that works then for sure.
So maybe we can call it a night, and then we'll have this again. I'd love to come and be on your channel one of these days.
Yeah, for sure. We can totally do that. Oh, this was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I've enjoyed it a lot. Okay, so anybody hear us? Maybe we'll shut it down. It's screwed up anyway, and
yeah,
it's out of.
Well, thanks for having me on, man.
Well, thank you. Yeah, this is really a lot of fun.
Yeah, for sure. We'll have to do it again soon.
We'll do it again. All right. Well, thanks everybody for watching.
See you guys later.
Yep. Thanks, guys.